The following program is being brought to you by Reign of Fire Radio, a media outreach arm of Reign of Fire Evangelical Ministries. Our commitment is to sponsor programs that will assist in living a Christian life and win others through teaching the finished work of Jesus Christ. Welcome to Delivered or Deceived with your host, Rand Berkey. Rand is a former cult member who now educates people on the dangers of these types of groups, as well as people who would seek to exploit and terrorize others. Rand has devoted his life to providing assistance to those who have been hurt. No one wants to be led through the wilderness by a guide who has never been there. He has, and his desire is that you will find yourself delivered and not deceived.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Reign of Fire Christian Radio. As on every broadcast, I like to set the stage by sharing one of the foundational scriptures for Reign of Fire Evangelical Ministries, as well as its outreach arm, Reign of Fire Christian Radio. In Luke 4:17 through 19, it states, "And Jesus was handed the book of the prophet Isaiah. And when he had opened the book, he found the place where it is written, 'The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor. He has sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives and recovery of sight to the blind, to set at liberty those who are oppressed.'" Christ is the message, and I'm only the bearer of the message. So tonight we're going to talk about evil is like gelatin. Now, I bring this up simply because of everything that's been happening for the last year. I want to talk about my experience and how my experience is, what do I want to say, is comparable to what is going on. So I was in a cult for a number of years. After a number of years, I got out of the group, and I had to do a lot of soul searching as far as what happened, why it happened, how did that involve me, how did that manipulate me, how could I save myself from going through that type of experience again, and how could I help others. And that's what I did. That'll probably be my second book, Delivering Others from Deception. But you can look at my story in Delivered from Deception, which you can buy on Amazon and on Westboro Press. So, I kick for myself, so I will do that. My own experiences led me to the point where I was helping others. This is a question that I was asked. I had to ask myself, as well as other people asked me. Once I spent the time with them, and I'm not talking about just a couple of hours, I'm talking about a few days, talking to people about what they were involved with, how they got involved, why they got involved, when they got involved, who they got involved with, and why they stayed. They started seeing that there was chinks in the armor. They started seeing that the truth, as the group or as the person said, wasn't all it was they said it was. They saw that the emotional ties that were made were only made in order to manipulate the person further. So there they are, sitting on the couch, at the table, wherever they're sitting. They're looking at me and they say, "Okay, so I understand that this is not true. I understand that there's a much larger picture that I need to look at." And that's where I was. At the end of my time of people working with me, I sat there and I said, "Okay, this isn't true, but what is?" Some people think that's a danger to do that and to lead a person into something like that. Other people think it's required. You have to look at the circumstances. And the circumstances might call for an intervention, because if the person goes down the primrose path to enlightenment, they may find themselves dead. And I found myself in those type of positions and experiences where what I was involving myself in is working with people. Basically, it was either they were going to get out of the group, or they were going to go further into the group. I can tell you that there's at least 3 or 4 times that I worked with individuals that, had they continued down the path that they were going, they would end up dead by either the group or by committing suicide. I'm not being maudlin, I'm not exaggerating, because of the violence that these groups perpetrate, not only on people on the outside, but also on their own members. One of the things, and probably the biggest thing, or the biggest question that people asked me, as well as I asked myself, is, what was the motive? Did the person do this knowingly? Did this person do it because they were deceived? Did they do it simply because they thought this was the way to go? Did they do it for some other reason that would have been, let us say, not according to what they were teaching? Was it self-serving? Was it self-serving to the individual? So all these things were coming up as to why. They wanted to find out the answer. They wanted to find out the reason that one person would manipulate another person the way that they had been. Unfortunately, the answer is, it may be both. It may be all of those things. It may be none of those things. Maybe it's something else. Maybe they were deceived along the way by someone else. You find this oftentimes in people that have just gotten in or been involved in the group for a while. Not the founders of the group, but you find them manipulating other people because they believe that is the way to enlightenment. That is the path to enlightenment. But there again, you can find people that are self-serving. They're doing it for their own reasons. They're doing it for their own ego. They're doing it to take advantage of people, as far as sex may be concerned, money is concerned, power is concerned. They may be following that track, which could even be completely opposite of what the leader might want. When you get people in power, unless it's tempered by accountability and by a standard of truth, then it can run amok. It can run crazy. However, that doesn't help the person that is sitting there saying, why did this happen to me? And the only thing that I can tell them, and this is what we're going to be talking about, is it's like gelatin, jello in your hand. You can look at it, you can hold it, you can see it, you can maybe even smell it or taste it, but try to grab onto it. If you try to grab onto it and squeeze, unless it's frozen, all you're going to have when you open your hand is a sticky mess. All you're going to have is the accusations and all that. You won't have the absolute evil that you can grab onto. A lot of people would. A lot of people would like to find the motives. They would like to blame the leader. They would like to find out that motive, that reason, because if there was a reason, then it would make sense as to why this person would do such a thing. Unfortunately, we don't know. We don't know why people do the way do what they do. We don't know what they why they protect it. We don't know why they lie. We don't know why they kill. We don't know why they blame others. We do not know that. All we know is that it is something that we should not be involved in, and we should get away from at any cost or at any price. You know, what I never want you to forget is evil is evil. And it doesn't matter the how or the why. You know, unfortunately these days, evil has become measured by relativity and not by standards. You know, your evil might be bad, but it's not as bad as maybe somebody else's evil. You know, when I'm talking with people, and you're talking about something being relative to something else, you know, I'll say this: would you rather be number one and be at 75%, or would you like to be in 100 and be at 100%? Well, everybody wants to shoot for 100%. That is the goal. That is what we want to do. But to see ourselves as number one at 75% comes far short of our potential, far short of what the standards should be or the standards that we lay out. That's what I mean by relativity. 75% on top of everybody else may look okay, but there's 25% of standards that is needed in order to meet that standard of 100%. So let's talk about leaders, evil leaders. We talk about Hitler and what Hitler did, how he destroyed Jews, how he destroyed lives, how he destroyed anything that wasn't what he wanted, that wasn't the white race, that wasn't loyal to the motherland. He whipped them up into a frenzy. He blamed the evil, now listen to this, he blamed the evil outside of those people that he was trying to win over, so they wouldn't see what he was doing to them, how he was manipulating them, how they died for him for really no reason. So, but there was a climate in which Hitler came to power in, a climate of chaos, a climate of people being oppressed and depressed by what had gone on in the First World War, which was only 20 years before. 20 years before Hitler came into office. Mao Zedong, he's the one that took over China. The aristocrats, the rulers, the emperors, they removed them, and it was the working class that removed these people because they felt they were oppressed. Mao Zedong came through and read the book of Marx. He basically implemented the Communist Manifesto into China. But what happened? The emperors were all killed. The communists took over the country, re-educated the population, but the population, depending upon how loyal they were to Mao Zedong, depended on whether they lived or died. And I'm not only talking about those people, the Christians or people from other countries, but also the loyalists to the emperors and even the people themselves, because Mao Zedong believed that the ruling classes, the bourgeoisie, had infiltrated people, had given them all sorts of evil ideas, and what they needed to do is purge the conscience of these people so they could be made into the perfect communists. The problem is, the perfect communists never existed by either Mao Zedong's idea or anybody else's. What we find is that people were murdered, not only from the